Hello, and welcome to Crescendo. As a hospice agency, you will be able to meet your clinical hospice documentation needs, manage your team meetings and bereavement activities, as well as generate claims and much more. You will see here on the caregiver's scheduled list of clinical activities, the nursing activities for home health and hospice can be set up to be seen by the same user. If you provide pre-assessments or pre-admission visits for your hospice staff, that information can be documented within Crescendo. Simply select the item that needs, or for the patient that needs to have the pre-admission completed, and Crescendo will take you into that information. We'll see the general information with whatever information was collected at intake available. Any required fields would be filled out or denoted by an asterisk to be filled out. See, medical diagnosis is generated or pulls over, and then we have the ability to do our hospice criteria and go through and identify in the various areas what the patient's level is for anxiety, nausea, well-being, and so on. You'll see additional information that's available for the use of CPR, life-sustaining CPR, and hospitalization information. The palliative performance scale can be documented. Any information related to coping and bereavement, and of course the ability to go over forms, rights, and responsibilities, leading ultimately to the signature for the clinician. So in this way, we can do a pre-admission visit and do some of that initial documentation towards the hospice requirements. If utilizing the pre-admission, you may then later go ahead and do the evaluation form for nursing. If the pre-admission is not utilized within your organization, you can go ahead and go directly to the hospice skilled nursing evaluation form. Simply choose that activity from the list for the individual that's scheduled to provide that service, and it will take you through and allow you to do the appropriate documentation to admit or evaluate your patient into the hospice services. You'll notice for anybody that a pre-admission has been completed, a lot of the information will already pull forward, such as the hospice criteria and the palliative performance scale. You have the ability to do any risk assessments as necessary. You can utilize standard risk assessments as provided by Crescendo, or add or create your own risk assessments. Ultimately, working all the way down through, you see, we go through the spiritual assessment, coping and bereavement area, and so on, until ultimately we can sign off and admit or choose not to admit this patient into our hospice services. For those patients that are receiving hospice services, we will also notify and alert you when a team meeting is to be completed. That indicator will allow you to see that information through the little butterfly indicator to see that there are team meetings. We see we do have an individual that has a hospice team meeting to be completed, and if we get together for a team meeting, we can go ahead and choose this item. Typically, one individual will document in the team meeting. It will identify for us if any of the required services have not been completed, and in this patient's case, neither the hospice social worker or hospice volunteer has yet to complete their evaluation. Or we can go ahead and continue anyway, or go back and have those individuals complete those documents. See, we can go ahead and document our notes, review things about this patient, such as the current medication or medical diagnosis information. And there's always a place to document information for this IDG note, such as diagnosis information is accurate. I can continue going through, look at the hospice criteria. This is what was originally identified. Perhaps the patient is now starting to become depressed. We can identify that information, and we can update that up above. So the diagnosis information is accurate. However, patient's starting to become more depressed. And as we document and discuss what is happening with this patient in our team meeting, go through the palliative form, we always have our current ongoing flowing IDG note up above. We can review the care plan on this patient, If there's any update to the orders for the patient, we can review the meds, we can discuss the levels of care for the patient, go over the spiritual assessment, check and see if there's any coping or bereavement information. Again, all along the line, documenting any significant information that is to be documented until ultimately we get to the signature page. We identify what our next team meeting date is. This can calculate automatically for us based on a parameter, or as I'll go in and just identify 2 weeks out. The care plan was approved, and then everybody involved in the team meeting can go ahead and sign the form. And keep that team meeting file up to date, or information up to date and available with everybody's signatures. And in that way, we can do our team meeting tracking and documentation. Ultimately, all of the clinical documentation that we've completed will forward on to generate the claims and allow us to do the statistical reporting information that we need as a hospice agency. So you can see in a quick overview that Crescendo has all the hospice documentation requirements of a hospice agency. Thank you.